Hey everyone, I'm still recovering from tendinitis. It sucks. I can't do much with my wrist, which sucks because I have a job that requires a lot of mouse and keyboard. So it's gonna be another couple weeks before I can get back to work on things like the Adam and Pals Oscars video and the Lion King YMS, because those are projects that I do most of the editing for, whereas these quickies are not. Fortunately, there are parts of this job that don't require me to do much with my wrists, like watching the actual movies. So I've been getting quite a lot of work done for my upcoming 2016 list video. Anyway, here are some things that I watched recently. Oxygen, directed by Alexandre Aja, was actually not bad. This is the best movie I've seen from him in quite a long time, actually. This might be my favorite film of his since High Tension in 2003, a tense and very competent horror film that Roger Ebert once said has a plot hole large enough to drive a truck through. And I really enjoyed that film despite its glaringly obvious logical issues. His newest film, Oxygen, also had some issues that didn't ruin the film for me. This is a film about a woman who wakes up inside a futuristic cryogenic chamber and has no idea how she got there, and she has to figure out how to escape before she runs out of oxygen. Now, unfortunately, the first half of this movie is going to feel way too familiar for anyone who's seen the film Buried, but thankfully the second half of the film redeems itself and it turns out to be very interesting. There were some aspects that were predictable and some that were not, but it managed to be a pretty engaging movie that was easy to pay attention to. Much of this is helped by Mélanie Laurent, who does a pretty great job in the lead role and carries much of the film. The film also features the voice of Mathieu Amalric, who is a great actor from The Diving Bell and the Butterfly. The music in this film was actually pretty good. The score was fitting and appropriate, and it was used unobtrusively. There's also some really interesting camera work somehow. Despite the film's limitations, they really did a lot with what they had. Now, much like every single other Alexandre Aja film, there are some stupid things, and they're not so complicated that I would have to explain them, so I guess you'll just figure those out on your own. There are just some things that don't make any sense, but they didn't ruin the movie for me. There are some visual effects that look great and some that do not. There was some makeup in one scene that looked not great. There are some aspects of this film that look cheap, but there are other aspects that look really professional. Anyway, I enjoyed this film despite its many flaws, and I just might wind up seeing it again sometime. And I'm giving this one a 6 out of 10. Another film I saw was Nobody, from the director of Hardcore Henry. The film stars Bob Odenkirk in the lead role, and it has the same writer as the John Wick films. Now, I never finished the first John Wick film, but I guess I'll give it another chance someday. I was led to believe by many people that it was a film that didn't take itself too seriously, so I was a bit disappointed when the first 20 or 30 minutes were so sappy and unironically overdramatic. With this film, however, the tone is incredibly clear right from the beginning. The overdramatic nature of this film is done so in a way that's completely self-aware, and it really helps the film. The tone and music and editing choices have a great satirical nature to them. This film knows exactly what it is, and it really added to the experience. The film has a great sense of humor, and I was laughing at several points. It is pretty well shot and has a really interesting oneer. Now, the action in this film is nowhere near something like The Raid, but it is definitely competent and entertaining. Some of it feels a bit goofy, but plenty of it is very satisfying. And because of the film's tone, any goofiness doesn't really take away too much from the experience. There are notable and familiar tropes at play in this film, but it's all done with a healthy level of self-awareness. My biggest issue with this film is that I wish it had a bit more structure. The flow of the overall narrative isn't perfect, and it unfortunately doesn't leave me feeling as though there was much of a journey with the main character. Not saying the plot had to be more complicated or anything, but perhaps have more locations or story beats. By the time we're at the climax of the movie, it almost feels a bit premature. There's plenty more that could have been explored or developed, and I found myself being not completely satisfied. The film Crank has a similar but shorter runtime, but there are so many different set pieces in that film that it feels like so much more happened. Either way, this was a humorous and entertaining film that was delightfully over the top at points, so if you're looking for a fun movie, then watch this one, and if you enjoy it, then check out Hardcore Henry. Trying to decide between a 6 and a 7, I guess it's a 7. 7 out of 10, there you go, bam. And lastly, I saw Invincible, the new Amazon Prime show based off of the graphic novel from Robert Kirkman. If that name sounds familiar to you, it's because he also wrote the graphic novel for The Walking Dead, although this time, so far, it doesn't seem like his original vision got trampled. The show's animation is reminiscent of 90s Saturday morning cartoons, but unlike those, this show is a lot more graphic and mature. The writing in this show is pretty compelling, and by the end of the first episode, I was hooked. There are interesting characters and great voice performances. The show prominently features Stephen Yeun, Sandra Oh, and J.K. Simmons. The music in this show is often energetic and adds a lot to each scene. There's also a lot going on in this show conceptually. There are certain ideas at play that get explored in either thoughtful or humorous ways. This is a show that greatly benefits from being animated because there is no limit to what they can show visually. There are lots of really cool and interesting powers that some of these characters have. Some of them were really cool to think about, but also kind of wound up breaking the universe in a way. Like, if you can just rearrange atoms and make whatever you want out of anything, then you're probably a little bit too OP. Also, if Duplicate just left one version of herself at home every fight, then she would be completely invincible. Just have one version of yourself to stay at home forever, chilling and playing Xbox, you'll be fine. So yeah, there's some goofy stuff, but whatever, it's a fucking superhero thing, I guess. At the end of the day, the characters are well written and their struggles feel genuine and relatable, and the show truly utilizes not only the medium of animation, but also its mature rating. There's a lot of really intense action and gore and violence. There's at least one scene in this show that was kind of fucking traumatizing, to be honest, and that's a good thing. I love media that doesn't hold back, and this is certainly a show that doesn't pull its punches, so check this one out whenever you can. I thought it was pretty great. I am definitely looking forward to seasons 2 and 3 that got greenlit. I hope season 2 is even better, because season 2 of The Boys was kind of meh for me. I don't know, didn't really impact me the same way that season 1 did, so. Anyway, this show was great. You should probably check it out, and I'm giving this one an 8 out of 10. Thank you. That's my pizza!
Don't touch my fucking pizza.
Pizza time.